Welcome everyone, and we're just about to get started. Yeah, I think now it's live.
So, welcome
Okay.
everyone. So glad to have all of you here. Um, Thank you for making the time. I'm here today with Usha Chengappa. Um, I'm Smriti Goyal. I'm a life coach and an executive coach. I run a consulting firm based in Hyderabad called the Coaching Anchor. I'm very passionate about making a difference to women community. Even though I work with the corporate world, it's all about bringing women together, bringing people together, and my favorite phrase is that you can be one person in the world, but you can be the world to one person. And that's how I try to operate in my life. Um, and today I'm here with Usha because I've started this Mind Over Matter Cafe series. Mind Over Matter is the name of my program that I run specially for women. And the idea is to bring together people who have the stories of people who have, in their ordinary lives, made it to extraordinary level just by applying mind over matter. So that's in a very simple way, that's the theme of Mind Over Matter Cafe series. And I'm absolutely delighted to be with Usha here, who was my first ever yoga guru. And that was way back in 2003. And I have seen her journey, sometimes from far, sometimes from close. And am, I know that she is in a place which is spiritually very evolved. So without saying more than this, let me invite Usha, and we'll begin our question answers. We will do about 30 minutes of chatting, and then we can open it for questions, which you can keep putting on chat. Our moderator today, Arushi Gupta, she will pick up questions if something, if I miss something. All right. So,
Thank you so much, Smriti, for having me here, and I'm delighted to be part of a session designed by my own student. It's a very proud moment, and mind over matter sounds fascinating. There is no woman who doesn't go through 100 odds to get to a space of living a joyous life. I mean, everyone has 100 hurdles to jump over, and I hope what we speak of today motivates you and makes you want to be more of yourself, more of who you really are. Hi, Sarika, welcome to the session. And Smriti, now over to you.
yes, thank you, Usha. So, Usha, as we start, I want to know what brought you to yoga, because I know that you've been on this journey. You started with something else before you came to yoga. So I want everybody to know about that.
Yes. So they say that a river zigzags before it meets the ocean, and that's what my life was like. I was doing all sorts of things before I came to yoga. At first, I studied art in college, art and psychology, because they appealed to me. I took them up as my subjects. And then I went on to taking up graphic design after my graduation. And I used to work in an ad agency and do wonderful designs, which began with I remember the art director giving me one whole day, just draw straight lines. Just take a pen and draw a straight line, and I think I was doing that the whole day. And it taught me so much when I look back. Of course, at that moment, it felt like the whole day just drawing lines. It just felt incongruous with what I wanted, all the dreams of being a designer. But when I look back, I see that life always takes the most perfect course. After that, I took up, after doing graphic design for a while, I've got interested in the other subject which I had picked up, which was psychology. I wanted to understand something beyond just being a graphic designer. So I had these couple of dreams which were very powerful, and they guided me towards some sort of energy which would flow through my head and then come out through my hands. So I was sharing this with a friend Rohini, and I said, listen, I get these weird dreams of energy flowing through my head and coming out through my hands. So she just smiled and then she said, but that's Reiki, Usha. So that then took me to Reiki. I went like just zooming into Reiki like anything. I just took to it like a fish to water. I understood that energies is the area where I want to work. And I started learning Reiki. I did the level 1 and then jumped into level 2. I was unstoppable. I had gone up to level 3. And by this time, I was sort of a healer. I say sort of because you'll understand later what I mean. So I was a healer, and lots of people, I remember doing about 11 Reiki healings in a day. And I used to feel enthralled that I can sit in one place and send this healing energy across the globe to people who were abroad, even, and it would bring about shifts in their energy. So, my first understanding was that space and time do not constrain the movement of energies. So, this was my first foray into the world of understanding what is the mystical world, what is it all about. At which point, I used to do these 11 sessions a day and feel a little bit tired end of the day. And I used to see not any deep transformation taking place in my own life. I mean, I was healing people and they were feeling good and they were very grateful and always bowing to me, but I was after something more. I wanted to see that transformation in my own life happening. And I used to be very confused and worried, how will I get on with this journey? And somehow my life is strange like this. Always the answers came in the form of dreams to me. Perhaps because our subconscious mind listens to what our deepest longings are and provides us with these dreams. So I began to dream of a person who's going to come into my life, who's going to transform it and bring it to where I want it to go. And later on, of course, I understood I was already dreaming of my guru before he appeared. And that is so, it's so synchronistic and amazing how your system can know such a thing before it occurs. So, my story is really long. If you want to interrupt and ask anything, Smriti, otherwise.
So yes, you got into the point when I kind of got to know you. So yeah,
Yes,
maybe a few years before, and
yes,
that's when you met Bharat Thakur and
yes. So
artistic.
I met my guru Bharat Thakur in a very dramatic scene of my life, and I'm not going to describe it here. You can connect with me and ask me about it later if you wish to know. But it was a very dramatic scene, and I connected with my guru, and it was a very joyful moment of my life. I can't remember any other moment of my life in which I cried for 3 hours continuously. And they were not tears of sorrow, they were tears of joy. They were tears of uh, finding what I searched for maybe for many lifetimes, finding it at last. So I think I was crying for nearly 3 hours, and all the people in the workshop were coming and tapping my shoulder and, saying, "It's okay, Usha." And then at which point I wanted everyone not to think I'm crying out of pain. So I couldn't stop, however. So my guru said, उसको छोड़ दो वो खुशी के आंसू है उसको छोड़ दो खुशी के आंसू है. So that was how my journey of meeting my guru began. And then initially it was not about yoga, it was about understanding oneself and meditation workshops. And then one day he said, this Reiki healing stuff that you do, why do you do it? So I said, because I want to help the people who come to, come to me. So he said, so you know better than the creator what you should do. So I said, no. He said, he has given them something and you think it should be fixed up. So I said, I have never thought of it in that way. So then gradually he said, if you really want to help another person, you're going to have to understand how to go deep into the root of an issue and pull out the issue from the root. Because from top, if you just apply the medicine, it will heal, but the root will remain inside. So he said, if you want to do that, you'll have to forget everything you know till now, and you'll have to work with me and learn about yoga. And that's how I was introduced to yoga, and I began teaching it. And I met Smriti, who's hosting us today at the golf club where I used to teach yoga.
Usha,
So,
before you go further,
yeah.
a couple of things. One is that I've heard this from other people who kind of immerse themselves in yoga, that they started crying at a certain point. So it's almost like coming home. And what was the other thing that I wanted to say? I have a question for all the listeners, that please start putting your answer about how old do you think Usha is. We are not going to tell you exactly how old she is, but you can put a range if you like. And the person who gets it right within India will get a copy of my Mind Over Matter journal. And Arushi, may I request you to put up a photo or a video of the journal so that people can see what is in it. And those who know it cannot answer, please. I know some of you know her very closely, but you do if you can. It's okay if you do, because I would love to send you a copy of Mind Over Matter journal. So please do
Don't cheat. Don't cheat, guys.
don't tell others though. So okay, so just so I see a hand raised from Seema. Seema, do you want to say something? Can we keep all our conversation towards the end? Anything you have to say, just keep putting it on the chat. I'll bring it to Usha's attention if required. That's all right. Um, okay. So Usha, tell me something. Now you've been practicing yoga for what, 20, 21 years?
Yes, 20 years now.
20 years. Tell me,
Yes.
what difference has it made in your life? I mean, probably that answer is more predictable. What difference has it made in the life of people around you?
So it's a very beautiful question, and I love the scope of this question. And so that is the beauty of yoga. If one person starts doing yoga in a particular home, it leaves, it motivates and goes, the energy then goes to everybody. It goes silently and it does its work. Initially, my husband was very suspicious of this whole connection with my guru and everything. He wanted to know whether it's a real person or a, how there are so many fake people in the world as well. So he came to check up the person, and so beautifully he got engaged with the energies of my guru and began to sort of work with him as well. So what happened is, my daughter also lived in an environment where there was so much of yoga going on. I used to also appear on a TV show, and she then became the anchor for that TV show, and we both used to do this for about a year on NDTV. And so she herself also now teaches yoga, and it has brought her a lot of joy and peace and expansion in her life. My son also does yoga, and at a very young age he took to music and started working on it. So what yoga really does to you as a parent or as a mother, it makes you very flexible and open to your child's journey. It makes you a person who's not going to be so rigid and try to control your child's journey. You're going to just allow the child to also float around, searching for themselves the way you are doing. So what yoga does, it makes you flexible in the body, of course, but then it makes you flexible in your mind. So that's why mind over matter is very apt here. And when I heard it, I was like, yes, I'm going to definitely come onto your show and do this. So yes, the people around me, even my friends who watched me take up yoga and do it, almost all my friends became my students. Almost everybody, because they really loved the form of yoga that I taught, which is artistic yoga. And they began to feel the joyousness of it. So they wanted to come for their daily dose of joy. It's like every day she'll give us a spoon of joy and we can go. So there was no effort on my part to make them be regular or anything, because it was their own joy calling out to them. And this joy I speak of is not something I am giving you, it's inside you. I just help you to dig it out and feel it, and then there's no doubt about it.
Thank you, Usha. And Ratna says, thank you, Smriti. It is an emotional moment for me to see Usha after so long. Here is a virtual hug. So she's sending you a hug. And people have guessed, we are not giving away anything, huh, Usha? 55 to 56. Somebody saying, Bindu Didi says 65. Sudeepa 55. Okay, keep guessing. I'm not telling you whether it's close or not. I mean, 20 years, Usha's only looking more beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Usha, now I know, and this is what you're saying, that the way you associated, you immersed in yoga, it we tell people in our families, oh, do pranayam, do yoga, but they don't do it. But if we do it and they see the change in us, then they start getting involved. And I know your daughter acted in movies, and I mean, they've found ways to express themselves. Your son does instrumental music, is that right? And so they have learned to express themselves in a way without you having to push them in any direction. And for me, that's a big deal about what we do with ourselves. And my message always is that don't worry about what others, your children are doing. Worry about what you are doing so
Yes.
that they learn it. In fact, I may quote one. Sorry, guys, this is so interesting. So I'm just sharing some of it. One time I was talking to my son, and he works very hard, both my daughter and son. I said, why do you work so hard? He said, well, I've seen the two of you. So what I think this is one learning that I am reinforcing in myself, Usha, that what I do has an
Yeah.
impact on others. And I know it's had a very positive impact, not just my immediate family, but extended family. In terms of, I reconnected with you recently, and I have been amazed at your paintings. And what came to me was that when I saw your painting, which you had painted after you came back from Haridwar, which was just about 2 weeks back,
Yes.
is that right? I was like, there's divinity, shining through this. And that's when I said, oh, you had been on my mind, but I hadn't called you. So I said, I'm calling Usha right now. And you said yes in a moment that you'll come on the show. So tell me about your journey from yoga to this divinity shining through your paintings.
Thank you. First of all, an artist never knows what they are painting. They are just tuning into some force, and they are just allowing it to work through their hands. So it's always a delight for me to hear from anybody what they are feeling when they see them. And I'm very glad I posted those paintings, and it motivated Smriti to invite me here and meet all of you. So, as I went on with my journey of yoga, it kept opening different doors for me. It changed me as a human being, and it kept sort of reversing my age. Even I'm not necessarily talking chronologically, but internally. It started reversing your age. Because what is your age except all the pain and the belief systems that you have carried, which make you rigid, which make you boxed in? But how beautiful is a practice which constantly keeps breaking your belief systems and constantly breaks even your body accumulates belief systems, even your body accumulates pain that we get through life's experiences. So, yoga is a process in which all that was being broken down consistently. As a result of it, I began to find a lot of affinity coming into me for nature. So those who know me, they see my innumerable posts on trees and flowers and nature. And wondering what happened to my yoga teacher, what is going on with her that she's going on posting things on nature. So yoga brought me very close to nature and showed me that I am just another part of this wondrous creation, and that nature and we are supposed to live in total harmony together. So it's one thing to know this intellectually, and it's another thing to feel this from your internal space. And that's how, when I click a picture, I can see divinity in it. I see the divine shining through various aspects of nature. And I try to learn from it, actually. I try to learn from nature how it flows, how it's spontaneous, how it just doesn't fight with anything, how it's harmonious. So, my first introduction after doing yoga was to nature, to really understand the breeze, the sunlight, the elements, and to feel them within my soul. And then once I began to feel this beautiful, I can't call it a feeling or an emotion, it's just a mystical feeling. So once I began to feel this internally, I wanted to share it, and words did not suffice. I wrote enough about it, but I didn't feel I was able to give another person that exact feeling. So that's when I picked up my paintbrushes, and as you know, I already knew how to draw straight lines. And and along my journey, I was always painting. It was not serious, but I was always painting. But now I have become this, I paint all the time, and why I paint all the time is because I feel that wonderful state actually. While I'm painting, I feel a very nice state of playfulness. And my journey now is towards playfulness and being childlike with life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And may I share a couple of things here? One I remember, and all the people present here, it's amazing the things I remember from our couple of years interaction in 2003 to 2005. One day Usha came and told me that Guru Bharat Thakur, he came home and he just started playing the piano because I think her son was playing or something. And he, yes, anyone can play it. And when he said that, I said, "How is it possible?" And I know that Bharat Thakur has also taken to painting. You've taken to painting, and you've taken it to unimaginable heights. And he has. I've seen his paintings; they're absolutely amazing. But the point that I'm trying to make here, which I say in neurolinguistic programming, that the principle of that anything one human being can do in this world, anyone can do. We have the capacity to do it. And what I'm hearing from you, Usha, that somehow you've come to that capacity, you've kind of manifested that capacity because of your inner journey. And each one of us goes on our own journey. So this is what you want to say on that.
So actually, when you sort of start unfolding your own self and becoming your own most authentic self and being who you really are and manifesting the gifts you came with, which is all a product of yoga and meditation that has been part of my journey. When you start embarking on this place where you become confident about who you are and you start expressing yourself, at this moment you feel at the bottom of a huge infinite universe. So you become a really humble person and you begin to just be enthralled by this ocean, which in my life manifests as in the form of art. But for someone it could manifest as music, for somebody it could be writing, or for somebody it could be just living their life playfully. It doesn't really matter what you do. It's the feeling of what you bring to it that matters a lot. And yoga helps you to clear these blocks away which are sitting in your system, in your body, in your mind. So I help people to clear these blocks, and the minute it starts clearing, that's all I see them blossoming. It's the most joyous and highest joy anyone can have to watch people flower and blossom. So that's what I do now. I teach a yoga class and I teach a meditation class, and I try to make people remove these blocks.
Yeah, you do that, Usha, and you do that really well. Usha, so the whole world, is interested in the concept of mindfulness, and you described mindfulness to me. And we think that we could go for one class, two class. I've heard Sadhguru say, when people talk about yoga, they say, okay, today I did yoga, tomorrow I did Pilates, and then third day I'm doing kickboxing. But when we are talking of mindfulness and we want to bring it to our life, it's everything that we do. Um, what's the journey that we need to take? Because not everybody will be a yoga teacher. We can be a yoga practitioner. But what is it that we need to do?
Very nice and a very beautiful question, and something that we all need to pay attention to. One of the things that are emphasized by all our masters and our revered gurus is practice. You remember my journey itself began with draw straight lines for one whole day. So I have to emphasize the importance of practice is huge in your life. So if I had not continued to do my practice of yoga regularly, which I got jammed because I became a teacher, so obviously my practice became very regular. So at one time I used to teach about 6 batches in a day, 3 in the morning and 3 in the evening, because it was so joyful. There were so many students who kept saying, make one more batch, make one more batch. So we just multiplied very fast. And I can't tell you that if you begin a practice and you keep going with the practice, one day it gives you fruits and flowers. One day it gives opposite direction. First gives you flowers and then fruits. So if you stay with it regularly, it's not a practice that you can be playful, like one day I'm doing the gym, one day I'm doing Pilates, one day I'll do yoga. It is a sadhana, and a sadhana means staying with it every single day of your life. So it doesn't mean you have to do yoga, teach a class only 3 times a week. Doesn't mean you have to do it every day. But the yoga flows into every day of your life. The meditation flows into every day of your life. And you have to be regular with that practice to keep removing the blocks, and you start seeing the transformation. Almost within a week or 2 weeks of your practice, you begin to see something already shifting. Your energy shifts, the way you see things shifts, the way your body looks shifts, the way your body moves shifts. And I mean, all this shifting that happens is reflected in the world outside. People around you shift, your job and what you do there shifts. So it's a real delight to get into this practice, which has been so enriching.
Thank you, Usha. And for all of us, we do different things. And, and you're very right. The more we practice, the more we are consistent, the more results we will see. But there are, and I want to know in your life, what were certain any setbacks that you in your own practice that made you feel, oh, but is this really for me, or made you feel doubtful, or how did you overcome them?
Again, a very powerful and a very beautiful question. Thank you for asking it, Smriti. Um, so when you begin a practice, the first job that it's working is it digs something out of you. And the first thing it's going to dig out of you is pain. So the minute you start a yoga class, within maybe 3 to 4 sessions, if there's any pain lying in you which is dormant, it will evict that pain. I have seen it happen to me in my journey of teaching as well. Very often I would be driving to a class and some painful thing would be emerging from my body. Some tears would be falling and I would be on the way to my class. My practice was so important. My students were waiting for me. So I had to just wash up and get up and go and do my class. So it was so beautiful to have those blocks come to the surface and get out of our body, because if we didn't do that, it would ultimately cause disease in the body. So yes, in those moments one questioned the whole practice and one questioned whether one can sustain it, because I myself feel so much pain, how am I going to do it? But you know how fast the pain would vanish. It would just appear for a day, come out and vanish. and once it left, in its place would be much higher energy flow, a much bigger smile on my face. So I began to understand that isko mat chodo, isko pakde raho, that just grab a hold of this practice and keep holding on to it till it delivers you to a very joyous space. Just hold on to the practice. And that's what I really actually did, with a lot of grace and love and motivation from my guru constantly, who would be there to guide my process.
Right.
So that is the actually the hallmark of any good teacher, that they will be there with you through the process.
Exactly. Well, Usha, you've been in my head throughout. Because when I'm doing something and I'm fixing a posture, I'm saying, oh, but we would say do this. And that's how a guru's voice kind of stays in your head and guides you, even if they're not physically and spiritually present. Um, so, Usha, we all try to do stuff, right? And we practice it. And like you said, there are times when it feels very difficult. How do you remind yourself in that moment? And I'm on this journey myself. I'm doing something that I'm loving. I love it for what I love my work, but there are times when it's very difficult. You wonder that you are out there telling people so many nice things, but if you can't face this moment, how would you? And I've heard it from others that that in itself keeps you online, because you have to be the teacher or the one who's spreading knowledge. So what do you say to yourself in that moment?
So actually for me it was a very simple thing. I always get hooked up by the love of students. It just happens to me all the time, and it has been at some moments when I used to have difficulty in my process for the day. I would be like, this love that I feel, it always drags me into these difficulties. That's how I used to think. And today I think that this the only thing that works for you is the love you have for the people who want to listen to you, who want to get something from you. That love is a big motivating factor for me. Till today, it has always been my motivating factor. That it is they who pull you and drag, whatever you have inside you. They are the ones, like you're doing it today, Smriti. They are the ones. Ask Smriti, the minute I saw her and she said, Usha, will you do this for me? I didn't ask her, what is your reach, what is your forum, what do you do? I was like, yes, I'll be there. Why? Because she's so dear to me. So most of my life, the decisions are not based on very rational sort of logistics. They are always from the heart, and they never betray me. They come out to be very right. And that's how I am sitting here and sharing this wonderful moment with all of you here, because I just said yes straight away without asking her a single question.
Absolutely. So, thank you, Usha. So, all of those who joined a little later, the question out there is, how old do you think is Usha? And anyone who is pretty close, within a year close to how old Usha is, you will win this beautiful journal which I have curated with my graphic designer Arushi, who's also the co-host today. You're going to get that journal from me. I'm shipping it only in India. It's too expensive to ship it out of India. So all those who are here, please guess Usha's age. And the reason why I can say this is because I don't think you will guess it right.
It's a lovely journal. I had the good fortune of receiving one from Smriti as being one of her invitees, and it's a gorgeous journal, and it's a treasure to have it. Thank you so much for it. And I just wanted to speak about the fact that one of the main benefits that I have seen with the practice of yoga and meditation is its ability to age reverse. It completely reverses your age and doesn't make you feel at all in sync with your chronological age. So many times it's a joke for me what my chronological age is, because what I feel inside is really who I am. And
Right.
often I like the company of youngsters and I hang out with them because I feel like one of them. I also want to wear the short black dress and I also want to do everything they are doing. It's so much fun. So yoga made me into this highly playful, energetic person who absolutely has no regard for what their chronological age is. That too, my family has to cope with.
Of course. The one thing I wanted to bring to everyone's, just to share from what I have been learning, and I follow Eckhart Tolle a lot. And remember, you said that you couldn't exactly convey the feeling through words. And what he says is that when we put a, when we see a bird, we say it's a bird. When we see a rose, we say it's a rose. And when we give it a name, we think we know it, but we don't. What we have done is we have put a label to it and we are using that label to describe it. But that label does not describe the mysticism that is in that rose or in that bird. And then if you apply that to beings, if we say, I know Usha, I don't really know Usha. I know only a little bit about Usha because Usha has just so many dimensions. And that's what I want to say about each one of us, that our name is just a label. Our various roles are just a label. We are much more because this, the wonder that this world is, and each one of us is it's enormous. And that's why, we should not be limited by anything that we are doing or we are called. So we are getting very good answers here, Usha. So Sarika says 60, Seema says 60 to 65. No, you can't do that broader range. You have to be, a
You
year,
have to pin it.
a year is allowed. So continue with that. So Usha, that and that's what your piece is conveying to me. If I may just okay, in a minute I will share my screen and show you the pictures. But there are two questions that I want to ask you, Usha, and others. Please start putting your questions here with anything that you would like to know, so that Usha can answer. But before that, one is, why do certain situations keep repeating in our life? What is your perspective on that?
Yeah, that's again a very intriguing question, and it happens to most of us. It certainly happened to me that certain situations kept on coming back into my life in the same sort of cyclical way, and for some time you don't even realize it's happening. And then suddenly one day you're like, but this has happened to me so many times. And now I need to get to the bottom of this because I don't want this to keep repeating. I need to get beyond this. So that's when you become alert and aware that something is repeating in your life. Why does something repeat in your life? Why do you keep staying in fifth standard and not moving to standard 6? Why does it happen? Because you were not able to learn the lessons of standard 5, isn't it? Similarly, in your life, you are learning and growing every single day. You are thrown different kinds of situations and cards, and how you learn to walk with them makes you grow. So, if the same lesson is repeating, you have to ask yourself, what is in it that I'm missing? What am I not getting here? And then you need to sit with yourself and work on this, and maybe take it to a guide or a mentor and say, can you help me to understand this? Because that's the first time you become humble and you go into a learning mode, and then you're ready to listen and you're receptive, and one can guide you then as to what you can do with that particular situation, which is always a reflection of you. That situation or that thing which is repeating is a very deep reflection of something inside you which also repeats.
Right. This is great, Usha, because the way I understand it is that it's about us evolving our consciousness. So how much we are noticing it. And this one famous psychologist, Richard Doherty, and he says that he quotes one research, which is that 80% of the time we are operating from what I know. and only 20% of the time we are looking at the new information coming to us. And the reason why that happens is that we all have a perceptual filters, and
Yes.
human beings get at a time only absorb 7 plus minus 2 bits of information, which is like 8 digits. So what we can't understand, we have process of deleting it, distorting it, or generalizing it. So that's why we say, oh no, I don't want to this information. But that's when we miss out the opportunity to evolve to a higher consciousness. And you have said it so beautifully that we don't graduate to sixth because we are still in, we're not learning the lessons of fifth. And I love that question, that asking yourself, what am I missing in this? That is such a great coaching question for self. so,
Yes.
so Sudipta, I see your question. What is artistic yoga? I will come to it in a minute. There's one more question that I thought would be useful for our listeners to do. That will know, how can we convert our knowledge into wisdom?
Yes. So this whole journey has been only this for the last 20 years, because you can know everything. You can know all the eightfold path of yoga. Yoga consists of 8 steps: yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi is the culminating, the fruit of your sadhana. So you can know all these steps mentally, but to live them, to translate them into your daily life, is a whole different journey. So, very often we get confused by the fact that we think we know something, we think we know it. And because we know it intellectually, we think we know it. But it's a whole different thing to know it experientially and to have it living in your life. It should be living in your life, it should be living through your being. Otherwise, it's merely a concept, and we can erase that concept in 1 second. For example, when I was doing Reiki, the concept I had was of I'm a healer and I'm helping people to heal. So my guru just came, and 1 second he wiped that clean by saying, why are you healing something which the creator has put there? So it is not to say that we shouldn't heal people, but don't you want to understand the depth of how you can heal? So the real healing only happens through awareness, through knowing, through looking at your lesson, through asking yourself, what am I supposed to learn here? And then by doing that, you just jump your level into the next zone. And it's so delightful, it's so magical that I don't have to tell you to practice even. You just get addicted to the practice because it's delightful. You're unearthing yourself every single moment.
Thank you, Usha. That was so insightful. And I'm tempted to quote one more thing from Eckhart Tolle. He says, thoughts are only, so we rely, as in this age, we rely a lot on our rational brain or our thoughts. But he says that thoughts are just a small part of our consciousness. What, and when you say that it, knowing is not enough, but experiencing and it living through your being, he says we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness of our thoughts, because that's what consciousness is. And
Yes.
we are, knowingly or unknowingly, all of us want to go towards this universal consciousness, but we may not have found a path, or we may have found our path. And everything that we experience in our life, and some of us may have a very difficult path or may feel that this is difficult for me right now, it is our own spiritual journey to that consciousness. So that's what I've understood from all that I've been reading. So any comment you want to make? And then after that, if you can answer Sudipta's question, what is artistic yoga? How is it different from other forms of yoga?
So, yes, I completely agree with Smriti that whether we know it or not, we all want to go to that higher consciousness which makes us live our life very joyously. Basically, it's so simple. We just want to be happy, enjoying our life, and playful. If we are doing this, like this journey shows you that once you're expressing your authentic self, it will feel like play. It will feel like you're just playing. I'm just playing, I'm doing my art. I'm just playing, I'm teaching yoga. I'm just playing, I'm teaching meditation. I'm not seriously doing anything. And it's so beautiful that So many people come to learn it from you and support your this particular playfulness. But this playfulness is earned through this process of sadhana, this journey of yours where you practice regularly. This is how you learn to be playful, to be joyful. And then it's just खेल खेल में कर रहे हो, जो भी आप कर रहे हो आपके लिए आप खेल रहे हो. You are just playing. You're not being there is no, this is not a serious webinar. We are just sitting and we are opening up this journey and understanding that the journey is all about landing up in a place of joy and laughter and playfulness. It has its hard work and its seriousness, but it doesn't feel like a load. It doesn't feel like a burden. It doesn't feel like a practice. It's a joyful opening up of oneself.
Great. Thank you.
And yeah, and to answer the second question, which was about artistic yoga and how is it different from other yoga, in some very crucial ways, in some very fantastic and marvelous ways, it is different from any other yoga. And according to me, it's the call of the future. It's a yoga that was looking far ahead of its time. Artistic yoga's first tenet was, we'll never do the same class every day. So you don't have a routine. Yes, we do Surya Namaskars every day, but I can do them at different parts of the class. I may do 10 fast and 10 slow, or I completely keep reinventing it as I go along. So the first thing about artistic yoga is that a completely new class in every session. What does it do? Why should you do something new in every class? Firstly, you never get bored because you never know what's coming, so you're never bored. It's always a joyful journey. Secondly, because it is different, your body and mind cannot fall into this one kind of a I know slumber, which we go into. If the same thing is repeated, we just go into that one kind of a zone, which is like, I'm bored and I know this. Like our natures are playful. So, because your body and mind cannot fall into this slumber, it is forced to do the work in the class. Your muscle doesn't know that work is coming to this muscle now. It doesn't know. You don't know anything what I'm going to do. So when that work comes to that muscle as a surprise, it can't prevent itself from doing the work, which is what happens with any habitual thing. You must have noticed that if you're going to a gym and you're regularly doing certain workouts, it comes to a plateau. Nothing changes. So artistic yoga already understood this ahead of its time and designed it in such a way that वो काम आपको करना ही पड़ेगा. आप मजे से करोगे. So you'll do it joyfully and you will do that work. So it brings about transformation through being different in each class. And thirdly, we have other elements like we have music in the class, and the instructions are so precise that the student can sit on a Zoom call and just be listening to the speaker and doing the yoga class.
Right.
It's so precise. So yeah, these are the main differences between any other yoga and artistic yoga. We also have a segment of it which works on your heart rate and giving you that intense heart rate, because you need that to jog up your heart muscle and make it function in a proper manner. So there is a sort of a aerobic part to it, but it's not very extended. It's a very short burst of energy that we want to give you through that.
Thank you, Usha. That does explain, and I have experienced that. I do only artistic yoga. So another question from Bindu Rastogi. During Shavasana, when you're supposed to be focusing on just your breathing, why do thoughts of grief and sadness come to mind? So that's our experience. Would you want to throw some light?
What a beautiful observation from you, Sudipta. And actually, it happens because, as you know, we are trying to clear up the baggage that lies inside us. So when you're totally at peace, the first thing to come up is that baggage which is lying inside. But it's not going to happen every time when you're in Shavasana. it can happen even if you're doing an asana, but because you're so quiet, and when you meditate, because you're so quiet, then the things which lie below, they bubble up to the surface and they clear away. There's a beautiful Zen saying that if you allow the dust to settle in a lake, if you allow the dust to settle in a lake, only then can you see your reflection. So you have to just be open to whatever is going on. I allow it to happen. I allow it to emerge. My guru used to tell me, because I used to get shocked by the tears and the pain coming out. He used to, क्या है, थोड़ा सा रोना है फिर तो ठीक हो जाता है. So it's just, you just have to cry a little bit. What's so difficult about that? He used to say. And lots of my students used to ask me, how quickly will this pain get deleted from my body? So I used to say that same answer which my guru gave me, that how many years did you take putting it in there? So uh, it'll take you just a short, it'll take you a short while. It won't be just cleaned up instantly, but if you keep up your practice for about, like Smriti did, I think 4 5 years with me, and you can see she herself looks so young and is such a creative and joyous teacher, helping so many others now. So just a few years of steady practice gets you there.
Thank you, Usha. So many lessons we are taking away from here. Sudipta, thank you for being here. I know you have to leave now. But so many lessons, that one, that if we practice whatever we are practicing, we will get to the evolve to a much higher level as long as we practice. And it's a journey. And those some of the metaphors that you use, that your life was zigzagging like a river, and it's the same for each one of us. So we can be okay with it. We can be okay with the pain that's coming through whatever practice we are doing. We can just observe it, accept it, and then move on from there. And that's what I've learned in my all the reading that I do. That if you are feeling some emotion, just observe it and accept the emotion, because that's the liberation from that emotion. And the thing is, through the practice, that's something that you can do. And that unless we actually focus on what am I missing in this situation, then the pattern will keep repeating. And the reason why that happens, and that's what I know from my learning, Usha, that we have not unpacked some of the rules and beliefs that we are holding from the coping decisions that we made when we were very little, when we had very few resources. So
Yes.
now in our adult awareness, we can consciously decide to let go of them. And for that, work has to be done. That means one is rational, cognitively you have to do it, and you have to do it with the meditation. And I know no other better way than yoga and meditation to let go of so many things. So, I mean, to me, you are bringing together my learning and your practice. It's just all coming together for me. So I know lots of people are here listening. Please ask your question, and you can still keep guessing how old is Usha. I would love to send you a journal, my matter journal, and I want to share, Usha, just for a moment, all your paintings. So Seema says there is a mysticism in your paintings. Is it always pre-decided what you're going to paint, or it goes as per your thoughts?
So, if I had to decide what I'm painting, I used to do that before, realistic landscapes and things like that. But my internal space became playful. So that was very tedious for me कि अभी ऐसे करके पेड़ बनाना है. So I was like, I just want to play with the color. So I turned towards abstraction, and I tried to convey a feeling just through few strokes and colors. I tried to make you feel something without giving you any defined form. Also, because, like Smriti said earlier, the less we define ourselves and the less we define things, the more open to life we are and the more happy we can be. So, just being open. So, my art became then an expression of those wordless emotions that I would feel. How would you describe sunlight streaming through leaves? How would you convey that feeling of divinity that it gives you in your heart? How would you draw it or paint leaves? It wouldn't give the feeling. So an abstraction became the solution. How would you describe the feeling of the sun setting and the beautiful orange ocean coming and going, and you're just sitting there, you don't have a single thought. And by the way, when you're painting, you're very aware of your thoughts. You're very aware of what all is going on in your mind. And in a day, we think 65,000 thoughts. Did you know that? We think 65,000 thoughts. Most of them are useless
And repetitive.
and repetitive.
Yeah.
All we have to do is go into a quiet zone, which happens through various processes in meditation, through chanting. I use chanting a lot. It's a repetitive sound, and if you all like, we can do 5 minutes or 2 minutes of it at the end of our session today, which will make you feel so good. So I just do chanting to still this noise of 65,000 people or traffic walking through your mind. So we still it, and in that stillness, we can experience that joyful nature that we have, the playful and joyful nature. So, yes, I just sit in front of my canvas to answer your question without a single thought. I just put some colors and then I get on with it, and some playful thing happens, and some feeling of divinity is always there. So I start feeling that and I start to do something playfully, and I make some mistakes also. Those mistakes turn out to be very beautiful. That is the zigzagging, you know. Once I just didn't like something, I put white paint on it. The paint was very thin. It caused this beautiful gauze layer to come onto my art. And I said, wow, this gauzy layer is looking so nice. I'm going to use more of this stroke now. And in fact, for the next 10 paintings, I was using that particular mistake stroke to do them. So it's a very playful journey of to be willing to fail, willing to make mistakes. And that's how the art keeps evolving.
So, Usha, lots of compliments coming to you. One is about your paintings, and then somebody said she looks not a day older than 30. Sana, you
Ah,
are
who
definitely
is
not.
that person?
Sana Zainab. Sana, and I know you are in US, so anyway, I can't send it to you, but you are way off the mark, and we are very pleased about that. So, before we go forward, Usha, we've talked so much about your paintings. I want to just show some of your
Yes,
work.
please. Go ahead. Go
All
ahead.
of you can, Arushi will put the, you know, uh,
Paintings up.
yeah,
Yes.
paintings up. Can you
Thank,
see? Yes, I will show you the others as well. So this is,
thank you, Arushi. Thank you. That's a great job.
yeah, yeah. So here, this is another of Usha's paintings. Since I haven't put it on a
Welcome.
slideshow, this is the only way I can show you. This is the one that Usha you're talking about, the gauzy effect of.
Yes, yes. You can see it here. And then, I was playful. So when I finished doing the whole section of the painting, the right side, it needed something. So suddenly I just took out I have this pink pen and that's my favorite color. So I just took it and I doodled this little thread. But it added so much to the painting. And that beautiful sacred thread that gets tied on our hands when we go to a prayer or we go to a havan. So this is that thread, and this is the doorway. If you can see, there's a doorway, and there's only light. And on this side of the door, there are some baggages, and there is a little fire.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff going on, but other side of the door, there's only light. So I didn't think this. I didn't think this. I just came and I put some black stuff and I put some red, pink, and some yellow, and then I just played around. And end of the day, even I was watching, like I was also watching this painting, like, oh wow, I just played with that pink thing, but it's like a thread.
Yeah.
So I later on made up the story about the doorway and the thread, but while I was playing, there was nothing in my mind. So actually, it's your subconscious is painting. You could put it that way. So you don't know what's coming out. That's very enjoyable for me. I don't know what's going to come out of me. So I also watch. Kya niklega, kya niklega aaj.
And Usha, this is what I want to say here, that it's a form of expression, and each one of us needs a form of expression. And for some of us, it might be music. For some of us, dance, painting, and it releases those things that may get buried in our subconscious. It releases them, and it feels joyful and playful. But before you go further, Usha, this is my favorite is this one.
Yeah, this was again. I mean, I normally don't reveal this in a interview, but I'm going to tell you that I took only 15 minutes to do this one. I
Wow.
just sat down and I just allowed the feeling to flow out because we had been sitting in a havan during our trip to Haridwar, and it had made such a deep, uh, wordless impact in you. You can't put it in words. So what you feel when you see it is you can feel a deity, you can feel flowers, and you can feel some fire and some wispy thing, some smoke.
Mm. Yes,
Other than that, you just feel something divine, right?
yes,
And there is nothing there to make you feel that it's divine, but it's just the feeling of the artist when they're doing it
right.
gets conveyed in the art.
So all the painters present here, I hope you are getting inspired by this, and you take your brush and you get yourself lots of canvases or paper or whatever you do. Because I always believe, Usha, that in my family, I'm the youngest of six siblings, and I believe I have absolutely no talent. My family, my brothers and sisters are so talented. They paint, they sing, and somehow they have not got so engaged with it. Maybe a little bit they've dappled in it, but not taken it to a height which I think they can. So I'm hoping all of you present here will take your passions, irrespective of what they are, to a height where they allow you to express yourself. Let your subconscious be released so that there is no discord between your conscious and your subconscious, because that's what Mind Over Matter is about. And what I also want to say to you is that I run this program, Mind Over Matter. I do it only for women. It can apply to men as well. But I do it because women tend not to take care of themselves. And while you may read books, while you may watch stuff and you may think about things, but like Usha said, you have to experience it and then you have to live it every day. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here talking to Usha, because we've not talked as much we talked today. We haven't talked in 15 years. And the fact that we are together, it feels like magic to me. And if you have any last questions, so I would say one or two of you. So Seema, you came the closest, but you still haven't kind of, nobody has put the finger on it yet. And what is Usha's age? So I'm still not
I'm
really.
not actually going to reveal it, so I'm not going to tell you. Let it remain a mystery.
Really tell you this, that Usha looked beautiful when I met her 2003. She looks more beautiful now. She's glowing, she's happy, her playfulness. And I think that's our journey. We started as a non assuming child, and then all our life experiences have made us very holding a lot of things back, layers on us. Well, now she has unlayered herself, and I think that's the journey I want to be on. And so some nice comments here, Usha. Anita says, beautifully played with colors. It's an eye feast to see your painting. Emma says,
Thank you.
amazing. Bindu says, fabulous work, speaks of divinity and the sublime. Thanks for sharing. And Mayuri says, so creative, love your positivity and cheerful attitude. And Seema says, your paintings are marvelous, as beautiful as your soul. Wow.
Thank
Love
you
it.
so much.
And Ratna says, love you, Usha. So much learning I carry from you. I do have to go. So, I mean, we shared everything. And Usha, if I think if there are no more questions, we'd love to do a little bit of a 5 minute meditation to
Yes.
close.
It would be really nice if we could all just do this for 5 minutes because it'll put you in that space that I keep speaking about. It'll take you there. So we'll just do a very simple chant. Does everybody can do um, Om Namah Shivaya, right?
Yes.
Everybody must be knowing just these three words. So
Absolutely.
let's do a chant of Om Namah Shivaya. I'll initiate the chant and then you just join up with me. I don't know where you are sitting. Close your doors so you don't disturb anybody. And we're just going to do it for 2-3 minutes to see what happens. Does the mind really become quiet? Let's go in with this experiment. So I'm going to ask everyone to sit with their back straight. And some of you who are here, Venki and Maddie and Smita, you're going to be like, oh, this is like our meditation session. We're getting into that part of it. But uh,
I'll ask them
you're going-
to unmute themselves.
yes. No, actually, what happens, Smriti, is if you unmute, the sound becomes very
Okay.
unpleasant, actually.
Okay.
So, because there's a time lag in everyone's chanting.
Right, right, right. So we
So the best way is you stay muted and you just take me as the leading sound and copy it. Copy paste. Just copy the sound and carry on doing it for 2 minutes. That's all I want you to do. And then we'll sit in silence and then we can get into our lovely meditative state. So, keeping your back straight, take in a deep breath. And when you exhale, let go all tension and tiredness, let it all go out of you. One more deep inhale. And exhale, let go of all tension and stress. And the last one, third inhale. Deep inhale and deep exhale. In this moment, you are nobody and nothing. You are just an Om Namah Shivaya. It is the name of the Lord who taught yoga, the master of yoga, Shiva, Lord Shiva. And very few people know that even his name is the Bij mantras of the 5 elements. So Om is the universal sound and Namah Shivaya are the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air and space. So when we chant Om Namah Shivaya, we harmonize ourselves with the whole universe. We synchronize ourselves with the universe and we can feel the beauty and power of the universe, which is in all of us, which is in all of you, which you will surely experience now. So now I'm going to start the chanting, and it's just a monotonous drone. That is how chanting is. It drowns out all the 65,000 sounds of thoughts. So please bear with me, and if we go for 5 minutes, also bear with me because I'll know the exact moment when to stop. So here we go. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Namah Shivaya. Om 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 Namah Shivaya. Keep sitting in silence. So if you gently open your eyes now, you can feel your own silence and your own presence. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Usha, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Usha. It was lovely.
Thank you.
And gift of your time and this gift at the end. Really, really, my humble thanks to you. And one last before we go, I know you do online classes. Is there what is the way we can reach you? Arushi, will you put up Usha's email and Usha's on Facebook as well as Instagram? It feels a little bit of a crime to bring that at this time, but I think it's important that people connect with you.
Thank you, Smriti. Yes, my email is available to anyone who would like to connect, either to take up the yoga or the meditation. You're most welcome. Keep feeling this lovely quietness, it'll be with you for some time. And enjoy your day ahead. And feel free to connect with any question or anything you would like to know on my email, and I'll definitely respond to you. Thank you so much.
ushachengappa@gmail.com, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I've already written it.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Arushi, and thank you,
Thank you
Smriti.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a lovely day, everyone, and wait for the next one that comes in Mind Over Matter Cafe series. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Smriti. It's been wonderful.